Hello, my name is Aaron Hathaway. I'm a Technical Services Manager for Nufarm. This is another virtual learning webinar. For this webinar, we're talking about Anuew for seedhead suppression, in particular, Anuew bluegrass seedhead suppression, whether you're in a fairway or a putting green. And we're going to kind of reveal our newest solution approach using Anuew in conjunction with proxy for seedhead suppression. So, if you've heard any of our other webinars talking about Anuew, you know that it can save you a lot of time, save you a lot of labor using it in both greens and fairways. You know that it can increase quality, can increase your turf's ability to weather the storm when it comes to maybe heat stress in the summers, because you're using a PGR to help that plant partition energy to other places like root growth and tillering. The truth is, suppressing seed heads on your fairways and greens can also increase the health of your plant. If you don't allow your Anuew bluegrass to spend energy on producing seed heads, research has shown that you can increase the ability of that plant to recover from things like anthracnose damage and just overall stress, because it hasn't spent that energy where it really doesn't need to, where you don't want it to. So I kind of want to tell the story of the research that we've done with Anuew and proxy. And so I'll show you two treatments here that we had in a putting green trial in 2019. The first treatment is just proxy plus Anuew, and a pretty typical proxy application, starting with a late fall application timing. And so this was in East Lansing, Michigan, and we applied that late fall application of proxy in November. So November 8th of 2018, and then we followed it up with two applications in the spring. And then that second treatment there, it's the same timing. We're just replacing Anuew with Primo, which is a very typical treatment. And so usually, especially now, many superintendents are making that late fall proxy application, which can really help to reduce those seed heads the following spring, and then following it up with two spring applications usually. And so this B timing is based on a growing degree day model. It's a Fahrenheit based model with a base of 32, which means you're just taking the average temperature for a day, then you're subtracting the base of 32, and then you're accumulating those degree days, growing degree days, until you get into that 200 to 500 window. And in my experience, it's better to go early than late. I like to go pretty much once you hit that 200 growing degree day window. I've waited too long and gotten, because all of us know that you can't hit it perfectly, right? What if you wait another day and you get past 500 and those seed heads have already been begun being developed by that Anuew bluegrass plant? At that point, it's too late to really suppress them. So I like to go earlier in that window. And remember, collecting these growing degree days for northern temperate regions, it usually starts on February 15th is when we start collecting those growing degree days. And then our C timing is about 3 weeks after our B timing. So late fall proxy only, early spring based on this growing degree day model, with proxy plus Anuew or proxy plus Primo, and then 21 days later you come back with proxy plus Anuew or proxy plus Primo. So that was the treatment list for this particular study. Just going to show you these treatments, and what I want to show you is that we had great suppression with both of these treatments, whether it was proxy, and you can see the dark green is proxy 3 times with Anuew at 5 ounces 2 times, and that rate is going to be key to what I'm talking about next. But this is Anuew at 5 ounces on pretty much 100% Anuew bluegrass putting green, and then proxy at 5 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet, and Primo at 6 fluid ounces per acre. You can see they're both pretty neck and neck as far as seed head suppression, and that untreated stayed pretty low until you typically start to hit a little bit later in May, and you hit that peak seed head timing, and you see it's like popcorn all over the putting green or the fairway, whatever the case may be. And so both of these treatments worked really well as far as seedhead suppression, but this is where they differed, and this is kind of the story that I want to tell you about. So this is the same trial, but this is turfgrass quality. Now, Anuew is much more intense, or at least it has a longer duration on Anuew bluegrass than Primo Max does, and it's why, if you've heard me talk about it before, it's why it's a really nice PGR for even regulation in mixed stands of turf, whether it's a fairway or a green. But because of that, this 5 ounce rate of Anuew, remember this was proxy plus 5 ounces per acre of Anuew, it was too much. It gave us too much of a flash compared to adding Primo to the tank at 6 fluid ounces per acre, and we just didn't need that much. And often the reason why we're either adding Primo or Anuew is because we can safen that flash that you can often get from proxy, and you can delay seed heads. You're not necessarily going to suppress seed heads, but you can delay the onset of those seed heads, so you give yourself a little bigger window to make that proxy application. And so you can see here that we just, especially early in the season when you get that flash from some of these PGRs, that 5 ounce rate was just too much. And so we began to play with that rate. You can see the quality afterwards went up, and actually that Proxy plus Anuew treatment began to exceed that Proxy plus Primo treatment after a while. And the main reason for that was it continued to suppress seed heads a little better than that particular treatment. But you'll see we then began to play with some lower rates of Anuew with proxy for seed heads. And so this is that same trial, though. You see how well both of these treatments worked for seed head suppression on an Anuew bluegrass putting green. This is still fairly early in the season for this particular year. It was a really late year to warm up. And so you can see that the turf grass isn't really in full swing, really growing yet, but you can tell that the outlined plots right here are pretty clean as far as seed heads go. And then outside of that, all that white or kind of light yellow you see is all seed heads. So as we continued our research, trying to figure out what rates were best when we were tank mixing Anuew with proxy for seed head suppression, at Penn State we did some work with John Kaminsky. And again, very similar timing. We were making that late fall proxy application with nothing mixed with it. And then we added Anuew to some of the spring timed applications, which were on a similar schedule to our trial that we did in Michigan. And so you can see here on the right, these treatments, we added Anuew to the C and the D timed treatments, which were April 17th and April 26th. And proxy was not in that D timed application, but that 1.3 grams is equal to 2 ounces per acre. 2.6 grams is equal to 4 ounces per acre. So you can see this is kind of that stepwise approach that's mentioned on the left here, where we start with 2 ounces and we move up to 4 ounces. So we start a little softer on this Anuew bluegrass, and we move up as growth starts to start and get more intense. The other treatment here is, again, proxy late fall on its own, and then applied again on its own on March 30th, as in the last treatment. And then Anuew is added to that C and D treatment, those April 17th and April 26th timings, I should say, at 4 ounces per acre. So this one doesn't include a stepwise, but it's a little bit lower rate than that 5 ounces I had in Michigan. And this is seedhead suppression. So this shows that the untreated, that untreated green line produced lots and lots of seed heads in this particular fairway. Both of these treatments suppressed seed heads really well, and I don't have a graph for it, but there was 0 injury to the turf grass. There was the same quality as the untreated turf, really no differences between any of the treatments. And so we eliminated any of the flash that we saw in Michigan with that 5 ounce rate of Anuew, and still had great seed head suppression. And then obviously from here you can continue your Anuew applications for growth suppression throughout the season. We saw very same thing on the putting green. And again, this is Anuew bluegrass seed head suppression. We're looking at the same treatments, and you see that stepwise treatment in there, which is the darker green line at the bottom, kind of covered up by that yellow line. But the key is starting with a lower rate of Anuew and then moving up. So making a proxy application on its own in the late fall, following it up in that early spring using a growing degree day model on March 30th, and then adding Anuew at 2 ounces first on April 17th, and then upping it to 4 ounces in a stepwise fashion on April 26th. And then from there, you can choose to increase it more or less depending on how much growth regulation you want. But on this putting green, again, it eliminated any decrease in turf quality and really was only a benefit to the turf. So our treatment plan for seedhead suppression of Anuew bluegrass, this is it. We want, again, that late fall application of Proxy, 218 fluid ounces per acre. This is the same as that common 5 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. And then starting in the spring timed seedhead suppression timing, for that first B application, you're following that growing degree day model to make that first application. And then your second and third are usually about 21 days apart. And you're applying 2 ounces per acre of Anuew with that B timed application, and then following it up with 4 ounces thereafter. And then again, if you're continuing these Anuew applications in your fairway or your putting green, you can increase your rates or decrease your rates from there based on how much growth regulation you want. So we do mention that best way to kind of follow these growing degree day models is using some of these online tools that are available. gddtracker.net is a great one. You simply enter your zip code into this website and it finds where you are, at least in these northern regions, and it will start collecting growing degree days from this particular model. So this is the Proxy Primo timer, but obviously for our purposes it would be Proxy Anuew timer. But you'd make your first spring application based on this timer. And again, I suggest going much earlier in that window. If the window is from 200 to 500 growing degree days, I like once you hit that 200 or 250 growing degree day mark to make that spring application. So late fall Proxy, it's really going to help you out to suppress more of those seed heads. In my experience, as I've done research, it doubles your seedhead suppression. If you don't make that late fall application, you can be very disappointed with your seedhead suppression if you're only using the spring timed ones. And then for that second timing, that first spring timing, use this model here. Use gddtracker.net. It helps you out just by collecting these growing degree days for you, and you can just kind of keep tabs on it. And then 21 days later, you can make another application, and it's in these spring timed applications that you're going to add Anuew. You're going to start at 2 ounces per acre and then increase it to 4 either on your second or third application. That's about it. If anybody has any questions, comments whatsoever, feel free to email me, call me. I'd love to hear from you, or you can always contact your local Nufarm sales rep as well. Thanks again.